Did House of the Dragon just reveal that the Dance of the Dragons doesn't actually matter? Because the more I look at the House of the Dragon Season 2 finale, the harder it becomes to ignore one uncomfortable possibility. What if the episode wasn't setting up a war? What if it was showing us that the war has already been decided? And what if every major character, Rhaenyra, Alicent, Daemon, Aemond, Aegon, even the dragons themselves, have become trapped inside a story that was written long before any of them were born? Stay with me, because once you connect the finale's biggest moments, something incredible starts to emerge. Alicent surrenders, Aegon flees, Daemon abandons his ambitions, Otto disappears, the armies march, the dragons prepare for battle. And yet somehow, none of those moments feel like victories. They feel like pieces moving into position, almost as if an invisible hand is arranging the board. And that invisible hand might have finally revealed itself in Daemon's vision. But before we dive in, fair warning, we're talking full spoilers for House of the Dragon Season 2, the finale, earlier episodes, and some major connections to the larger Game of Thrones universe. If you've somehow avoided all that and clicked on this video anyway, you're braver than a dragon seed approaching Vermithor. Now let's talk about the moment that quietly changed everything. I've spent hours rewatching the finale, revisiting earlier episodes, studying character dialogue, comparing visual clues, and connecting details that initially seemed unrelated. The more pieces that fall into place, the more it feels like the finale is hiding a much bigger story beneath the surface. On the surface, nothing huge happens. No shocking battle, no massive death, no Red Wedding-style catastrophe. In fact, many viewers walked away feeling like the finale was mostly set up. But what if that's exactly why it's important? Because sometimes the most important episode in a story isn't the one where characters make decisions. It's the one where the audience discovers those decisions were never really theirs to make. Let's start with Daemon. For almost the entire season, Daemon has been fighting two battles. One against his enemies, and one against himself. Every vision in Harrenhal chipped away at the image he had created of himself. The fearless warrior, the rogue prince, the man who could take power if he truly wanted it. For weeks, the show kept asking the same question. Would Daemon betray Rhaenyra? Would he eventually convince himself that he deserved the Iron Throne more than she did? The writers repeatedly placed temptation in front of him. Lords encouraged him. His reputation empowered him. His frustrations pushed him toward rebellion. Everything seemed to be building toward a choice. Then the finale arrives, and suddenly that choice disappears. Why? Because Daemon sees the future. Not fragments, not hints. The future. And what's fascinating isn't simply that Daemon sees Daenerys Targaryen. It's what her appearance means. Think about it. Out of every possible image Alice Rivers could have shown him, why show Daenerys? Why show the three-eyed raven? Why show the White Walkers? Why show a dead dragon? What do all those images have in common? None of them belong to Daemon's story. They belong to a story that happens nearly 2 centuries later. The vision isn't showing Daemon how to win. It's showing him that he isn't the main character. Suddenly, the Iron Throne becomes small. The dance becomes small. His personal ambitions become small. For the first time in his life, Daemon sees something larger than himself. And the moment he understands that, he bends the knee. Notice how quickly his internal conflict disappears afterward. That isn't character development. That's enlightenment. Daemon doesn't submit because Rhaenyra defeated him. He submits because he realizes destiny already has a plan. But here's where things get really interesting. The same theme appears everywhere else in the finale. Take Alicent. Her conversation with Rhaenyra might be the most tragic scene in the entire episode, because Alicent finally understands something that viewers have slowly realized for 2 seasons. The war no longer belongs to her. For years, she believed she was protecting her family, protecting the realm, protecting tradition, protecting duty. Yet, every decision she made only pushed Westeros closer to disaster. When she offers King's Landing to Rhaenyra, she isn't negotiating. She's surrendering. Not just politically, emotionally, spiritually. She's exhausted. And when she asks Rhaenyra to run away with her, the moment feels almost surreal, because Alicent is imagining a world where choice still exists, a world where they can simply walk away. But House of the Dragon immediately destroys that fantasy. Rhaenyra reminds her that there is no escape. Blood has already been spilled, children have already died, dragons have already been unleashed. The machine is moving, nobody can stop it, and that realization connects directly to another seemingly unrelated storyline, Aegon's escape. At first glance, Aegon fleeing King's Landing looks like a survival strategy. Larys convinces him to leave. Money is moved, plans are arranged, the king vanishes into the night. Simple. Except it isn't, because Aegon isn't escaping danger. He's becoming a passenger in his own life. Look carefully at the finale. Aegon barely makes decisions anymore. His body is broken. His authority is gone. His council abandoned him. His brother tried to kill him. Even his journey to Braavos isn't truly his idea. Larys guides every step. The king who wanted glory now spends the finale being escorted away like cargo. And once again, we see the same pattern. A character loses control over his own story. But then we reach the strangest mystery in the entire episode. Otto Hightower, where is he? The finale briefly reveals him imprisoned. Dirty, confused, defeated, and the show refuses to explain how he got there. Most viewers immediately focused on who captured him. But what if that's the wrong question? What if the important question is why the writers showed him at all? Think about Otto's role since episode 1. He's arguably the greatest political strategist in the series, the man who manipulates kings, controls succession, shapes history. Yet in the finale, he's reduced to a prisoner. Silent, powerless, forgotten. The ultimate political player has been removed from the board. And again, the message feels familiar. Control is an illusion. The more you chase it, the more likely you are to lose it. Now let's talk about Rhaena, because her storyline looked simple on the surface. She runs through the wilderness, finds a dragon, the end. But there may be something much bigger happening here. Throughout the series, Rhaena has struggled with identity. Everyone around her possesses dragons. Everyone around her seems important. She feels left behind. Then suddenly, when nobody expects it, a dragon appears. Not because she conquered an army, not because she won a political game, not because she inherited power. The dragon simply arrives, almost like fate correcting an imbalance. And that idea becomes even more fascinating when viewed alongside the dragon seeds. This season repeatedly challenged assumptions about bloodlines, about legitimacy, about destiny, about who deserves power. The traditional rules keep breaking. The dragons keep choosing unexpected riders. The old system keeps failing. The world itself seems to be rejecting certainty. And then we arrive at the finale's final montage. The armies march, the dragons prepare, the fleets move toward war. It's an incredible sequence, but watch it carefully, because the editing creates a strange feeling. Excitement, yes, but also inevitability. Every army feels locked onto rails. Every character feels committed to a path they can no longer leave. Nobody is celebrating. Nobody is confident. Nobody truly looks victorious. The war isn't beginning. The war is consuming them. Which brings us back to Daemon's vision. The clue that ties everything together. What if the purpose of the vision wasn't simply to connect House of the Dragon to Game of Thrones? What if it was revealing the show's central truth? For years, fans have argued about succession. Who was right, who was legitimate, who deserved the throne, the Blacks, the Greens, Rhaenyra, Aegon. But Daemon's vision reframes the entire conflict, because from the perspective of the future, none of those questions matter. The White Walkers don't care who sits on the Iron Throne. The Long Night doesn't care about succession law. Humanity's survival doesn't care about court politics. And that's exactly why Daenerys appears. She represents the continuation of a mission that began with Aegon the Conqueror's dream, a dream that has haunted this series from the very beginning. Suddenly, the Dance of the Dragons stops being the main story. It becomes a tragedy inside a larger story. A family destroys itself while trying to protect a future it barely understands. And that's the cruel irony. The Targaryens possess the prophecy, yet they're too busy fighting each other to truly honor it. They're guardians of a warning, but they're acting like conquerors chasing power. The finale quietly suggests that every battle ahead is fundamentally pointless, not because the outcomes don't matter, but because everyone is focused on the wrong prize. The throne isn't the answer. The throne is the distraction. And if that's true, House of the Dragon just revealed something incredible. The real winner of the dance isn't Rhaenyra, it isn't Aegon, it isn't Alicent, it isn't Daemon, it's destiny. The prophecy survives, the bloodline survives, the larger story survives, everyone else becomes collateral damage. And suddenly that slow finale starts looking very different because instead of ending with a battle, it ends with a realization. Every major character believes they're marching toward victory, but the audience now knows they're marching toward history, toward tragedy, toward extinction, toward a future that none of them will live long enough to see. And that's what makes Daemon's vision so terrifying. It doesn't show hope. It shows irrelevance. It shows that the people fighting for the throne are only a chapter in a much larger book. So here's the question that keeps bothering me after the finale. What if House of the Dragon wasn't secretly building toward the Battle of the Gullet? What if it was secretly building toward the destruction of the Targaryens themselves? Because if Daemon truly saw the future, then he didn't just witness Daenerys, he witnessed the end of his entire family. And if that's the case, how many other characters are marching into season 3 believing they're fighting for victory when they're actually walking toward their own extinction? And if this theory turns out to be right, I'm going to need everyone in the comments to swear that you totally believed it from the beginning. Also hit that subscribe button because if this prediction somehow survives the Dragonfire of season 3, that button deserves its own dragon, its own castle, and honestly, its own seat on the small council. And if this theory breaks the internet next season, remember where you heard it first. Until then, keep your eyes on the prophecies, keep your eyes on the dragons, and most importantly, ask yourself one thing. If the future has already been written, who in House of the Dragon is actually making choices anymore?